Thanks everyone for being here. And our class today is working on the core, and we are going to be mostly on the floor today. So either on our backs, on our bellies, on our sides, on hands and knees. We'll do a little bit of standing, but we're going to be mostly down close to the floor. We're going to be doing a few things on hands and knees. You might want a blanket or some extra padding for the knees, and even on the belly, sometimes having a thin layer of blanket or towel under the hips is makes it more comfortable. Um, Blocks, we are going to do a supported bridge. It's nice to have a block for that, but you don't have to have it. And it might be helpful if you need to take some pressure off your hands and wrist in the hands and knees position. And just as a reminder, we are primarily working on strength today of the core, but remember that strength really comes first with control. So a lot of the things I'm going to offer are a progression. I start with the simple or the basic version of it, and then I might add a little more challenge. And you don't have to take the next most challenging progression of it. You could stay where you feel like you have the most control, because that's actually where you'll gain strength rather than trying to do something harder that your body is really struggling to do. Nothing should be painful or uncomfortable. Those are reasons to change, to modify the practice. And for this practice today, I would say rest, right? So we're going to be working on the core, and you might actually fatigue, and you might need to take a rest so that your muscles can regain the energy and go back to the activity, as opposed to fatiguing and then fatiguing to the point of muscular failure, and you can't keep the control. All right, so we will start on our backs, starting in some stillness. So whatever position here on your back feels good to you, knees bent or straight, maybe a prop under the legs because we'll be here for a couple of minutes. And you could place a hand on your belly and the other hand on your chest. And don't feel like you got to get your hands like right smack dab in the center. So let the elbows rest. The hands are really just to feel the breath moving in and out of you. So they're actually hands are kind of riding that movement of the belly and the chest with the breath. Take this first few moments here to pay attention to the breath, focus on the breath. Feel the breath moving in and out of your body. The expansiveness on the inhale, making space for the air you just breathed in. And this passive release or softening as you breathe out, emptying the lungs. Breathing through the nose if you can. Start to slow your breathing down. Doesn't mean big, deep breaths or even a lot of effort. It's just a little intention with the breath. We slow it down, lengthen out both inhale and exhale. We always start the practice with this focus on the breath and the way the breath can keep us in the moment and guide our movements. But as we work the core being the abdominal muscles, the back muscles, pelvic floor, the diaphragm, we're really working with breathing muscles. And so you'll notice my cues for movement go with the breath. And with the core, it's actually pretty specific as to when to inhale and exhale. So if you can stay with a lengthened breath, you're going to pretty much work within control of your strength. Take the next few breaths to set an intention for your practice, and could be the reason you're here. Get stronger, be more mobile in your joints, your body, become a better rower, reconnect with your body or slow down. Maybe none of that's speaking to you today, and maybe the events in the outside world are. Perhaps you dedicate your practice to others who might be suffering, bringing them positive thoughts and energy. So bring this thought to the front of your mind and breathe with intention. We'll take our hands away from the torso here. Have the knees bent and the feet flat. We're starting with a really subtle movement of the backward pelvic tilt. Press your low back into the floor, tipping the tailbone up towards the ceiling without lifting the hips. And then we release that. So we exhale, flatten the lower back into the floor, tailbone tipping up, legs stay relaxed. Inhale, slowly release. We'll do a few more here and just find the rhythm of the breath and that pelvis rocking backward and forward. Your next inhale, just allowing this to relax. So that was the simple version, and perhaps the easiest version, or you might feel differently as we go. I'm going to add a little more challenge by lifting the legs. So knees bent, shins parallel to the floor, and we're doing the same thing. Press the low back into the floor, the tailbone tips towards the ceiling. Inhale, relax. Exhale, flatten the lower back. Inhale, relax. So we're going to do a few more. We are primarily working or strengthening the rectus abdominis. This is the vertical muscle in the belly, the six-pack muscle. It starts here at the bottom ribs and goes straight down to your pubic bones, actually attaching to the backside of the pubic bones. So we anchor at the ribs, and then the bottom part of that muscle is pulling the pubic bone back to rock the pelvis. All right, lower the feet down here, take a little break, maybe rocking the knees gently side to side. There's one more progression of this. So you could do the first one, feet down. You could do the next one, feet up, knees bent. Or you could do feet straight up towards the ceiling. You don't have to have the knees all the way straight, so they could be a little bent, but you have the soles of the feet up. And then we do the same thing, flatten the lower back, tip the tailbone towards the ceiling, release on the inhale. So we exhale, tip the tailbone up, inhale, release. So for me, this is a smaller movement, but I have to exert more effort through those rectus abdominis muscles to actually affect a little lift of my tailbone. If you're struggling to get that, go back to one of the first two versions of this. If you notice your neck muscles engaging a lot, arms overhead, a diamond shape or hands behind the head. These are some of my watching Netflix core strengthening exercises. All right, we'll pull both knees in, gently circle those hips and knees here, relaxing through that rectus abdominis. I already feel the blood flow going here to those muscles. We're rolling over to one side, so coming into a fetal position here. And we're doing this side lying twist. So hips and knees bent. You could use your bottom arm to support the head here, or slide a yoga block or folded blanket under the head to kind of pillow it. But you don't want to be holding the head up because you'll strain through the neck, which is a common problem sometimes when we work the core, as we tend to engage too much through the neck. This is less core strength and more kind of finding some mobility. We're starting with the top arm reaching straight forward from the shoulder. We sweep the arm up towards the ceiling, bring it behind us, but the legs are going to stay forward in that fetal pose. Exhale, bring the arm up and forward again. That's it. We inhale, sweep the arm up, back behind us. Turn your head to follow that moving arm. Exhale, bring it over. Do that a few more times. This is something, this upper back mobility exercise is, I do some variation of this. I don't know how many times during the day. So I have some good mobility here in my upper back. You might be a little bit tighter or stiffer. So you're just going as far as you feel like you comfortably can here, not trying to force it. Come on to the side and then roll over to do the same thing on the other. So just make sure your head's supported so you're not straining through the neck, hips and knees bent, which helps keep the twist out of the lower back and more in the mid and upper back. Top arm stretching forward, and then we reach it up, back behind, turn your head, exhale, bring it up and forward again. Do this a few more times. Again, not forcing it. And it could be that it's the shoulder or the chest that's limiting your movement, or maybe even the head turn here. So it might not be the mid and upper back that's kind of restricting you at this point. Doesn't matter what it is, you're honoring it and going with what you got right now. All right, come onto your side. So you could stay on your side depending on where you are, but if you need to turn to face me, go ahead. So we're back in this fetal pose position. We're going to do a pretty slow progression to side plank. And side plank uses shoulder, oblique muscles, even hip muscles here. But we're going to start with just the oblique muscles. So first, bring that free hand under your side waist and feel where the side of the waist is just resting on the floor. We're not using your hand. It's just there to kind of feel what's happening. This is an isometric of your oblique, abdominal oblique. So pull the side of the waist away from the floor. See if you can pull the side of the waist away from the hand, like you made a little gap between the waist and the floor, and then lower it back down. So we exhale to pull the side of the waist away from the floor, and then we inhale to lower. Just do a couple more here. You might take the hand away, but you're just trying to make a little space under there, like you could drive a matchbox car underneath. All right, lower that down. You could keep it here. This is kind of a nice version that doesn't put too much pressure on the shoulder, or come up onto your forearm here. So elbows under the shoulder, or on the hip and on the forearm. You could do the same thing where it's just a little isometric, keeping the hip down and pull that side of the waist away from the floor and then lower. There's a little bit of rolling over that outer hip bone, which may not be as comfortable. You could do that. You could go back to the first version, or you could push into the forearm and the knees and you lift the hips on the exhale and then inhale to lower. So we exhale, lift. Inhale to lower. And if you need a little oomph, you could bring the block forward and push a little bit with the hand. There's that sort of half step here. We'll do one more. All right, pause and lower. So I'm going to do one more version. It could be the knee up side plank. You could go to any of the other versions that we've done before. So I'm going to straighten both legs. I'm put one foot in front of the other one here, and that's just a little bit more stable for me. So I'm pressing into the feet, this forearm. Exhale to lift the hips. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. I feel a lot more in my shoulder stabilizers here. One more. All right, lower on down. And come into that kind of position for the sideline twist. And we sweep that top arm back again, but we're going to pause here. So you have the gaze up, chest up towards the ceiling. If it's comfortable, turning your head to look towards that arm that pulled behind you. Just take a few breaths here. Trying to get back to that lengthened breath we started with. All right, coming onto your side. I'm going to do the other side. You could roll away from me, or you could do that little breakdance move around to the other side if you want to keep facing the camera, but you know where we're going with this. So hips and knees bent, support the head first. This is the isometric one. So this is pulling that side of the waist away from the floor. So maybe that free hand comes down here just to feel. You exhale, pull the side of the waist away from the floor, like you could slide something underneath there. Inhale, lower. Let's do a few more just to get the feel for where that oblique muscle is. There's actually two oblique muscles. They kind of run on the diagonal, wrapping from around the back ribs to the front of the pelvis, and then the front ribs towards the back and side pelvis. So you could stay there, kind of grounded here, no work on the shoulder, or come up onto the forearm. So elbow underneath the shoulder, hips and knees stay in that kind of fetal pose. You could keep the hips down and do that isometric, lift the side of the waist away from the floor, or press into the arm, the knees, exhale, lift the hips, inhale, lower. And remember, you could do block here in the front if you want a little extra oomph for this lift. And maybe your core is strong enough to do the more challenging version, but pay attention to the shoulder as well. That might be a limiting factor. All right, lower on down. You could rest. You could go to one of those first two versions, or straighten the legs, one foot directly in front of the other. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. There it is. Feeling it now. One more. All right, lower on down, come back into that fetal pose position, that sideline twist. We sweep the top arm back. So we have the gaze, the chest looking up towards the ceiling. Let the back of the head rest on the floor, your hand, or slide a folded blanket underneath. Take a few breaths here as we're actually kind of stretching through those obliques we just worked. So just a gentle, keep it gentle. Might be feeling stretch somewhere else, outer hip, chest, front of shoulder. All right, come on over onto your side, and we're gonna make our way up to a child's or puppy pose. I'm gonna use the blanket here under my knees just for comfort reasons as opposed to alignment prop purposes. So totally optional. Child's pose is hips over heels, forehead resting down. Puppy pose is an alternative, or I'm using it as an alternative here to child's, hips over knees, forehead down. And if you have low bone density in the spine, if you have a herniated disc in the lower back, hip or knee issues, you might be in this puppy pose instead of the child's, so that you don't compress through those joints, those discs, through those bones. Take a few breaths here, perhaps coming back to that lengthened out, slow down breath we started with. This could be a resting position for you, so you could come back to it any time. If you've lost your intention, lost your breath, you just need a break. So we're going to do a sequence of moves where we start and end here. I'll have you reach your arms forward. And on the inhale, lift the head, the torso, and we shift forward into this knee down plank. So think straight line from the knees to the top of the head. Think about pulling your front hip bones towards each other to engage that innermost layer of abdominal muscles. Keep that core engagement, lower down to the floor, elbows by your ribs. Once you're down, pull the shoulder blades towards the spine, towards the back waist to peel the head and chest up off the floor for this low cobra. The gaze is down and forward. Push into the hands. Now pull through the low belly, engage the lower abs. They're the primary movers of pushing your hips back into that child's or puppy pose, or maybe somewhere in between, which is where I often end up here. We're going to do that again. So inhale, lift up, shift forward into that knee down plank. Pull the front hip bones towards each other. Exhale, lower elbows by your ribs. Low cobra, shoulder blades together, down your back, lift the head, chest. If it feels okay to your spine, lift your lower ribs to a bigger back bend. Pull the low belly in, hips come back, head comes down. Child's or puppy pose. One more. Inhale, lift up, shift forward. Exhale, lower. Shoulder blades back, down, lift head, chest. There's low cobra, or lift the lower ribs, middle cobra, or lift your low belly, maybe the front of the hips off the ground. Pull that low belly in. From the stretch, it's a little harder. Low belly pulls in to shift the hips back. Let's find our way to hands and knees. Coming into a few versions of bird dog here. And tabletop, we have the knees under the hips, the wrists under the shoulders. And often the wrist pressure, hand pressure here can start to get to people. So remember, you have a few options. You could be on loose fist instead of the flat palm. You could do these ones on your forearms, on blocks, or on the floor if you want to take the pressure completely off of your hands. So setting it up here for this bird dog, we want to firm the belly, make a solid wall of your abdominal muscles. And then we find more length in the spine. So think about tailbone and top of the head reaching away from each other. So the spine is really long. We're reaching one leg back, toes point straight down towards the earth. And you could stay with just the leg and not add the arm, or reach the opposite arm forward, thumb up. Now try to keep your hips really level here. As you inhale, shift forward an inch or two, and then exhale, shift back an inch or two. And we're just going to go forward and back a few more times. It's not a big shift, but I'm trying to keep my hips level, the spine long, and of course, continue breathing. It's surprising to me how much more challenging that little bit of shift makes holding that tabletop of my core, my spine. All right, lower the hand, lower the knee, take a few wags of the tail or a few cat-cows, or sit back on the heels or stand up on the knees, shake out those wrists or roll your shoulders. And then we'll do this on the other side. So we find that hands and knees or the tabletop pose, whichever variation you're doing, firming the belly. Find that length in the spine. We reach the other leg back, toes point straight down. Maybe you reach the opposite arm forward, thumb up. Keep the hips really level. We inhale, shift forward an inch or two. Exhale, shift back an inch or two past neutral. Forward and back. And you might have a little bit more wobble. Working on control. One more shift. All right, lower the knee, lower the hand. Find that child's or puppy pose again. And we're going to add a side bend. So lift the head, walk the hands over towards the right. Lower the head back down. If it rests on the floor easily, great. If not, left hand or left fist under the forehead, but reach out through that right arm. Take a few breaths. So we are lengthening through that whole right side from the hip out through the right fingertips. You might feel your lats stretching here. The breathing muscles in between the ribs, maybe that oblique, perhaps the side low back, that right side low back. Lift up, walk the hands over to the right. You're going to reach out through that left arm, maybe the right arm too, but you could always put that right hand or right fist into the forehead. And this works from either puppy or child's, right? So either one. And you might play with it, see which one feels better. Take a few breaths. Sometimes that puppy having the belly free for the breath feels good. I'll get back in through center here, coming back into that hands and knees. So this is another variation of bird dog. This one's a little bit more dynamic than the last one, and it's working a lot of your abdominal muscles here. So it's a lot of bang for your buck. So firm the belly, lengthen the spine. Let's reach our left leg back, toes point down. Again, you could do just leg and it's a little less challenging. So if you're struggling, do just leg or reach the right arm forward. So it's opposite leg and arm reaching out. And as you exhale, you're going to pull the knee under, the elbow under. They're moving towards each other and the belly button towards the spine. And then we inhale, reach it long again into the bird dog. We'll do 3 more. Exhale, pull under, belly button towards spine. Inhale, reach it long. Do 2 more here. So we're working that rectus abdominis again as we kind of tilt that pelvis under. Transverse abdominis, innermost layer of abdominal muscles here, helping to steady the obliques because it's opposite leg and arm. Exhale, let's just lower down. A few cat-cows, a wag of the tail, a shake of the wrist. And then all these spinal muscles, muscles that run along parallel to the spine, working here, working hard here. Not to mention your shoulder and hip stabilizers. This is like a buy one, get 5 free exercise. All right, set it up. Spine long, firm belly, right leg back, maybe just leg or left arm forward again. We exhale, pull elbow to knee, belly button towards spine. Inhale, reach it out long. 3 more. Exhale, pull under. Inhale, reach it out long. All right, lower down. Again, taking a little break here. Actually, let's come all the way onto our bellies, taking a full break here. You could bring your hands under the forehead and just wiggle the hips gently side to side. Coming back into that lengthened breath, so you're slowing the breathing down. Returning to your intention for the practice. Coming into a Sphinx pose. This is a little bit of a back bend. It's sort of like a supported low cobra. We bring the elbows under shoulders, forearms parallel to each other. Palms are flat here. Press down into your forearms, and then as if your palms or suction cups, pull back on the hands so the chest pulls forward and the neck is long, right? So you're not sunk down in the shoulders, but the neck is reaching out a bit. So there's already a lot of core work happening here in the low belly and the back muscles, shoulder stabilizers. You could stay with this, or we could move in and out of this in between a forearm plank. So I'm going to do the knee down version first. Exhale, press into your knees, lift the hips just a few inches up off the floor. And then inhale, lower the hips, pull the chest forward for Sphinx. So we exhale, push into the forearms and knees, lift the hips just a few inches. Inhale, lower hips, chest forward, Sphinx. I'm going to do 1 more here. Knee down version. Exhale, lift the hips. Inhale, chest forward. All right, lower down, rest the arms, rest everything. You could bend the knees, rock the legs side to side. So you guessed it, there is a progression of that one. So you could do the same thing, but come into knee up plank. You could keep it at the knee down plank. You could just do Sphinx. You could say, screw all that and stay here resting. So here's the Sphinx, elbows under shoulders, suction cupped palms, pull the chest forward, neck long. You could stay with this, or the plank version, you tuck your toes, push into your feet, your forearms, exhale, lift your hips and low belly. Inhale, lower hips, chest forward. Exhale, toes tucked, and lift the hips, low belly, gaze down. Inhale, pull, lower, pull into Sphinx. I'm going to do a couple, 3 more. You could keep going. You could do the knee down version. You could rest. All right, lower all the way down here, resting the head, hip wiggle, rock the lower legs, whatever feels good. Core, strong core is going to be protective of the spine, of the hips, of the shoulders, of the neck. Strong core, actually, if you have a weak core, it's harder to gain strength in the extremities. You need something to anchor them to, something strong to anchor them to. All right, coming into a little bit of a scorpion twist here. So you might start small with this and add more movement if it feels comfortable. We'll bring the hands under the shoulders, elbows point towards the feet. And you might watch on the first 1 or 2 if you don't know this one. We're bending one knee, lift the thigh, and then bringing that foot behind us. And I'm turning my head away from where the leg is going. And then I lower down onto the belly again. Other leg, bend the knee, lift the thigh, bring the foot behind me, look away from that leg, and then lower down. So you inhale to go into that lower body twist, exhale onto the belly. And it might be that foot just kind of hangs out there, or you might feel like you have enough range of motion to bring that foot down to the floor, but there ain't no reason to force it. Just going to cause low back pain or sacroiliac joint dysfunction. And we'll bring that back onto your belly, pressing yourself up to hands and knees, and then bring the legs around to come into a seated position here. So we are coming into what's called boat pose, so which is apt for our Yoga for Rowers class. And we're starting here with the knees bent, feet flat. Hold on to the backs of the thighs and start to shift your weight back a little bit. So you're kind of balancing between the tailbone and the sitting bones. Using your arms here to help keep the chest lifted and the neck long. This could be your boat right here. Or maybe you play with lifting one foot and then the other. Maybe you feel like you could lift both feet and keep that chest lifted. If you lose it in that back rounds, lower the feet, pull the chest back up. Play with just 1 or 2 feet here. Shoulders relaxed. Breathe. You could decide this is enough, or a little more challenge would be to let the arms go. Palms up, shoulders relaxed, unclench the jaw. Lower the feet down, hold on to the front of the shins, bring your feet out like yoga mat or a little distant, farther apart. Lift that chest, look up, and then let the back round, drop the chin. Do that a few more times. A little cat-cow from sitting. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, let the back round. Couple more. Swing the legs back around here to come to hands and knees. Again, I'm going to pad my knees as I get ready to come into a lunge position. So stepping 1 foot forward here, starting with that ankle underneath the knee. if you have your yoga blocks, this is helpful for the progression as we go here. So hands on either side of the foot on the floor, maybe fingertips or up on yoga blocks. And then create a little space between the back knee and that front foot so that you can create this straight line from the back knee out through the top of the head. So my belly is relatively close to that front thigh. In fact, my belly is on my front thigh here. And then firm the belly. Find more length in the spine. Reach the top of the head out and away. So you could stay right here. You could lift your back knee. Keep the belly firm. You could stay with this or bring the hands onto that front thigh, coming into an arrow pose here. So firm that belly, long through the spine. You might need to stay here, bring the hands back to the blocks, or reach the hands back behind you. So hands are actively reaching towards the foot, the neck gets really long. Take one more breath. Exhale, lower the hands. We're going to step the back foot to the front foot, and then step the other foot back. Lower that back knee. Take a breath or two here. Maybe rolling the shoulders or coming up, rolling the shoulders, shake out the hands, release it a little bit. And we'll do this on the other side. So starting with the ankle underneath the knee, make a little bit of space. So if that knee isn't close, bringing the belly to the thigh, you're going to round the back. So if you can slide the back knee back or the front foot forward or both here, think straight line from that back knee out through the top of the head. So press into the hands to take any round out of that upper back. Firm the belly. You could stay here, back knee down. You could lift the back knee. And the next few you could do with the knee down or up. You could bring the hands up on that front thigh. Long through the spine again. Breathe. You could stay here. You could bring the hands back down or reach them towards that back foot. Palms inward, thumbs down. Actively reach back. Start to engage these muscles that pull the shoulders away from the ears. Lengthen you out through the neck. Lower the hands down. Step the back foot to the front foot. Might be one big old step or a few little hops to come into this forward fold. Listen for your options. Could be the ragdoll forward fold, knees a little bent, or more generously, upper body draped over lower body here. If you need to be protective of the spine, low bone density, herniated disc, tight hamstrings, this is the version for you. Feet wide, butt back, forearms on your thighs. Take a little, add a little movement here, and very subtle. So it could be a weight shift, forward, back, side to side. Could be just a shake out of your head. Inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth, like a sighing, audible breath. If you're in that ragdoll, you could be holding elbows, shaking the head, releasing. Bend the knees, look forward, strong legs, rise up on your inhale. You could reach both arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to prayer. Let this go. Shake it out, roll the shoulders. I'm going to move that blanket out of the way. Just a little bit of release. We've been working a lot on strength here. Let's kind of let some of it go. So bring your feet about shoulder distance apart. Arms are hanging loosely by your side. So this one's a kind of washing machine movement. Think of like the top loading washing machines instead of the front loading that has the agitator in the middle. And we'll start to rotate the upper body around that stable lower body. And I'm letting my arms kind of swing freely here. In fact, the arms are kind of coming around the hands. Just give me a little tap on the back ribs. Maybe that movement gets a little bigger. The arms swing out a little bit more. Kind of reminded of those swings they used to have at the amusement parks. I don't think they still have them. Maybe they do. And then make your movement a little smaller so the arms don't swing out quite as far. Make it smaller still. And bring it back in to the center here. We're going to stretch through the side waist. We've done a little bit of this already, like in the child's and puppy pose, but trying this here from standing. You might want to be at the wall if you struggle with the balance for this, but I'm going to bring my left foot forward, bend that left knee, step the right foot off to the left. So it's going behind and off to the side. Left hand on the hip, right arm up and over. Right? So instead of hand on the hip, you could have hand on the wall. So you could be at the wall here doing this. Sometimes having something to lean into allows for a better stretch. You could stay with this, or left hand, finding that right wrist, and you give a pull up and over. Take a few breaths. We're stretching through some of the breathing muscles, so sometimes you have to be very intentional about the breath, or otherwise you end up holding the breath. All right, come on up, release your arms, swing them out here a little bit, and then the other side. So bring your right foot forward, bend the knee, left foot crosses behind off to the other side. Right hand on the hip, left arm up and over. You could stay with this. Maybe you turn and put that right hand on the wall or a chair, or right hand comes up to find that left wrist and you give a little pull so you feel a little bit more in the lats. Take a few breaths. Notice did the head go way forward? I just noticed mine did. So I'm just bringing my head back in line with my spine. Breathe. Come on up. Release the arms. Swing them out. Shake out the legs. Come up to the front of the mat. If you left it, inhale, get taller. Reach up. Take up space. Spread your fingers. Exhale, find that forward fold. Whatever variation is working for you. Take a few breaths here. Shake out the head, release through the neck and shoulders. Walking the feet back, coming down to hands and knees, and then making your way into a seated position. We're coming into this kind of side seat, side saddle position. I don't really have a good English word for this pose. In Sanskrit, it's Bajasana, which is hard to say and doesn't mean anything to you. So I say like side saddle here. So this is going to work the core and the hips. And I'm going to give you a few variations. And it does actually pretty intensely work the hip muscles. In the more challenging variation, you're probably going to feel it more in the hips. So keep that in mind. You might need the less challenging version. So we're leaning away from our legs. And the leg that's furthest out away from us is the one that we're going to be moving. And we're sweeping that leg forward. I'm letting it slide on the floor, coming forward and across my other leg. And I come into a little bit more of an upright position here. And then I lean into that hand and sweep the leg back to the starting position. So I inhale, rise up, sliding that foot, come to upright. And exhale, slide the foot and lean away. So you could keep it here where that foot is sliding. That's a little less work for that moving hip. Or you could let that foot kind of float over the floor, right? So more outer hip, more hip flexor, more glute medius is working here. You could go no hands, hands on the hips, leaning away. So working those obliques a little bit more without that hand support. One more here. And then lean away, pause. Whew. Okay. We're going to stay in that side saddle position for a quad stretch. So that leg we were just moving, we're going to stretch the quad. So we reach back to find the foot with the free hand. Make sure the heel's not going up, but you want that heel going towards the buttocks. You could use the strap here, but hopefully you can get to that foot. You could stay with this, could be enough quad stretch. You could come down on that forearm. You could slide the thigh back for more quad stretch here. Breathe. We often talk about releasing, relaxing, stretching the hip flexors, which is very important for all of us, especially for rowers. But the hip flexors engage organically with the core and specifically the rectus abdominis when you're moving out of the finish and going back towards the catch. As you start to lean your torso up and forward, the hip flexors actually have to engage to tip that pelvis forward. We're doing a little quad and hip flexor stretching here, even though we just, or maybe because we just worked the hip flexors a bit. Let that go, come on up, feet swivel off to the other side. So we're leaning away from your legs. Remember, you've got options and you do not, I'm not laying down the gauntlet to challenge you to do something more challenging here. So we start with this version, leg furthest away, we sweep it, it's sliding on the floor, forward, up over the other leg, and we come into a little more upright, seated position, and then we lean away and slide the leg away. So you inhale, slide the foot forward and around, exhale, slide it out and back. So remember, you could keep that foot on the floor. This is still working glute medius hip flexors, or foot floats, and you're working those muscles a little bit more. And it could be you let it rest in between repetitions. You could keep that hand on the floor or both hands on the hips, and that's going to work the core a little bit more. Breathe. All right, leg goes away, off to the side, lean on that hand. Whew. All right, hip flexor, glute med. Sometimes they can tend to cramp with that one, so you might have needed to rest a little bit before. Here's our quad stretch. So we reach back, find the foot, stay with that. You can come down on your forearm. You could slide that thigh back. Each one is going to give you a little bit more stretch, and you might already have enough stretch. Check in, make sure that heel is not going kind of to the outside of the butt, but more straight towards the center of that butt cheek. Take a few breaths here. Letting that foot go. Coming onto our bellies again for another variation of a prone or belly down back bend. Now I'm going to use my blanket to pad mostly my pubic bones here because we're going to do a little core engagement that kind of presses the pubic bone into the floor, and then we lift and there's more pressure there. So sometimes that can make this a little bit more comfortable. If you have arthritis in the lower back, or if you have what's called stenosis, which is a form of degenerative joint disease in the lumbar spine, you could do this still, but I would add a pillow under the belly, or you might turn over on your back and do bridge pose instead, which wouldn't be as problematic for those two issues. We're bringing our arms out to the sides in a T. So head's resting down here to start. And I'm going to be specific with the arm position. So I have the thumbs down and palms face your feet or the back of the room. We got to prep the core here before we lift. So tailbone lengthening towards your feet. That's the pubic bone pressing into the floor. It's essentially the pelvic tilt, but we're not going too far into it. So feel that low belly engage. Keep that. Inhale, lift the head, chest, the arms leading up with the little finger side of the hands. Maybe you add raising the legs. Keep the gaze down and forward. And then we lower down. We're going to do a few reps. So we inhale, lift. Pinky sides of the fingers leading, shoulder blades squeezing. And we exhale, lower. So notice that I'm not in a super big back bend because I want to keep my length in the spine as opposed to just crunching through the low back vertebrae. Lowering down, hands come forward to rest the head. A little wiggle of the hips. So the core isn't just the abdominal muscles, it's the back muscles too. So this is a very efficient use of kind of all the back muscles. And that hand position gives us, works one of the four rotator cuff muscles. And then we're going to do the next hand position to work two of the four. So we get three of them in. So this one, arms out to the sides in a T, thumbs up. Okay. Tailbone towards feet. Inhale, lift the head, chest, arms, neck long. Maybe you raise the legs, and then we exhale, lower. Do three more here. If your back can tolerate this one, really great kind of strengthener that gets you out of that hip flexed position that you stay in rowing. So it's a nice counter strength pose. Lower down, rest the head. Could bend the knees, rock the legs side to side. And, I mean, you're strengthening the muscles that you need in rowing. The back, the glutes, the hamstrings, muscles that keep the spine long instead of letting it round forward. All right, release the feet, come onto your back. We're coming into a supported bridge. And I'm using the block for this. It could be a folded, rolled up blanket or a towel, or foam roller works well. But I'm sliding this prop underneath my sacrum. So this is the area that's above the more fleshy part of my buttocks, but below the low back. Make sure you're not on the vertebrae of your low back, because you might get a chiropractic adjustment that you didn't intend to get. Once you're here, you might need to adjust. Sometimes that block slightly off feels uncomfortable. Can you relax the muscles of the back and the buttocks? We've been like just engaging muscles in very specific ways this whole hour. Now we're asking them to relax, and sometimes it takes a minute or a moment for the muscles to get it. Adding a hip flexor stretch to this. So pulling one knee in, holding on to it, straighten the other leg out, the heels resting down on the floor. This bent leg, you might just pull it off to the side just a smidge, knees just slightly wider than the hip. So you start to get some openness, some stretch through the hip flexors of the straightened leg. Holding that knee, but relaxing the shoulders, the jaw. I just had to remind myself, I felt myself tensing there. Switching sides. The knee pulled in, maybe bring it off to the side a bit, so knees just slightly wider. Then the hip, could be holding back of the thigh here too. Opening up through the hip flexors of that straightened leg. Bring both feet to the ground, lift your hips, taking the prop out. Decide if there's something you'd like to do here before Shavasana. It could be knees in, it could be a happy baby where your knees are wider than the hips. Hold feet or ankles or backs of legs, gently rocking. A reclined twist or another stretch or pose that might make your practice feel complete for you. Think about how you'd like to set yourself up for Shavasana, for relaxation. Could be putting on socks or sweater or blanket, turning down the lights. It might be legs up the wall or legs up on a chair. I'm going to come into legs up the wall position here I've got some swelling in my left foot. But wherever you end up, make sure it's comfortable, right? So you're not struggling to relax or having to be really making yourself relax. So it could be you're on your side or on your belly, it could be sitting, eyes closed or open, whatever feels natural. Take an inhale through the belly, exhale out through the mouth like a sigh. I said inhale in the belly, but inhale through the nose, sigh out the breath, and then let your body rest and let the breath go. We have been thinking about how and when to breathe the whole practice. Now we get to let that go. It falls away. We've been thinking about how and when to engage certain muscles. We get to let that go and let it fall away. All that's left, all that's missing is you being able to relax here for the next few minutes. You've been engaged, mind and body. Reward yourself with a few more minutes of rest. Remember that you could stay here longer and rest for more. But if you're ready to move on, the rest of your day and evening, start to deepen the breath. Bring some movement to your fingers, your toes, gently turning the head, wrist, ankles. Maybe you reach your arms overhead and inhale, lengthen out, full stretch. Exhale, let it go. We'll bend the knees, roll to your side, pause for a moment here on your side, taking this opportunity to appreciate your body, your breath, your yoga practice. Being gentle, press up to a seated position. Thank you all for being here, sharing your practice, your energy. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste.